Hey, everyone, welcome. Time for another awesome day of FileMaker learning. I'm going to be hiding out down here in the corner down here in the bottom right corner of your screen. We getting Calvin connected here. All right, Calvin, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, we actually hear you. That's great, Calvin. Yeah. Calvin, do you want to show your screen? Do we want to take a swing at that? And once again, make sure all the internet traffic is at a minimum. So let's talk about how we got to today. So let me back this up. Yeah, I'm going to move you out of the way down there. So today's broadcast is a culmination of Calvin had this event for you guys about a week or two ago, you guys and gals, and it was how to have FileMaker dial a phone. Except he had it dialing Skype, and I instantly had more conversations about how old is Calvin? Is Calvin 90? Is Calvin using a walker and a wheelchair to get around? Skype is dead. What planet is Calvin from? Is Calvin from the 1990s, etc.? So Calvin, taking offense at all that because he's like, what are you, like 32? 30, 32? How old are you, Calvin?
32.
Okay.
32.
So Calvin is not so old that he needs a walker, but he's not 12 anymore either. So he understood that he made a social media faux pas. It's a party foul by promoting a technology that really is kind of dead. So he came back with WhatsApp. So this is an integration with WhatsApp. Now some of us don't use WhatsApp. I'm one of those people. But I'm using Discord. That gets me my official badge for I'm a 20-year-old compliant kind of guy, right? So I'm 20, right? But I don't use WhatsApp. So can you explain to us old people what is WhatsApp and what the hell are you doing here today?
WhatsApp is a messaging application, and you can send messages and send attachments and such. And here I'm using the WhatsApp app here on my Mac. So the way that we're interacting with it is the same way we're interacting with FaceTime, Google Voice, and Skype in the previous conversation. And we're using the open URL protocol. And by specifying where how we're going to specifying that URL, we can call a number or text a number and send a message as well. What's interesting about these different interactions, if we want to kind of recap what we talked about before, with placing a call or sending a text message with Apple, we are calling a specific app. So if we go to look at our scripts here, we have this URL FaceTime : / / and that's telling the operating system to open FaceTime. And then in Google, we're actually opening a URL in a web browser. So we're calling the Google Voice website to place a call or send a text message. With WhatsApp, we actually have both options. We can either we can either trigger to open up the app on our operating system, or we can do it through our default web browser. And do the same thing there. One thing to note, though, is that you can't do both at the same time. Your account has to be set up to either be working with the website or with the app. So let's go ahead and try this out.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if you could actually demo this. Do you have someone to call?
I just have the texting part of this, so I can say, let me just go ahead and delete this, delete chat. And so we don't have any chats going on at the moment. And I've got my number in here and a message. I'm going to say text. It brings up that number. So say we're in a CRM, we've got the client's number here, or our contact's number. We select that, and we can bring up that, bring up their number and just start messaging them. Hello, this is a message for you, and it sent.
Is that an SMS then? It sends that out, or they have to have WhatsApp on their phone, right? It's WhatsApp to WhatsApp, right?
Yes, yeah. So this phone number is attached with my WhatsApp account, so it goes through WhatsApp right there.
Okay, so can you make a call out of this?
And then. I do not have it making a call. Just messaging. So, and then we have a message here. Maybe this would be like a template message. We can just say text message, and it actually has my message right here. This is the rest of the message. This is all controlled through those open URL commands. So let's go ahead and look at how we're setting those up. Oh, I hit the Skype one. Let me quit Skype before it takes up too much bandwidth. Okay. So here's the script workspace. And in each of these cases, I have this set up so that I can use this button with any, say there's a number of different places that you want to make phone calls out. I'm working with an app right now where there's a dozen different layouts that all need to make phone calls from. And so instead of having a script for each of those places, I'm just passing the phone number through the script parameter so I can use the same script everywhere. So we have our script parameter, which would be the phone number. And then if it's empty, it will exit. Otherwise, we will open the URL. And this is what that URL looks like. We're filtering out the any parentheses or dashes from the script parameter. That's really important. If it sees those, it's going to get confused in a lot of cases. In some applications, they won't need a country code number at the beginning. Some of them do. In WhatsApp, you do need that number. So if I...
Okay, well, hang on a second here. So you're kind of droning on here. Let's go ahead and... So we have the code there. That's great. Hit OK for a second. Let's exit out. We have someone here volunteering to be a target for you to call a real person. None of this like imaginary crap. So let's do real person. So this is David. David, stand by. We're going to call you. He's got... So yeah, go ahead. So let's text David and see if David is there.
Hello from... the live stream.
But are you in FileMaker, or you're just testing to make sure we can do it? Is what you're doing right now? Yes.
So I started in FileMaker. This is FileMaker here, and I said text, and it brought up the WhatsApp app.
Okay, but what if you don't want to bring up the WhatsApp? You just want WhatsApp just to shoot it out.
Received. So he just messaged us back.
Okay.
If we were going to do a message someone in that way and have it immediately shoot off, we would need to do we wouldn't do that through the URL protocol. We do that through a REST API or something like that. And we've set those. I've set those up with Twilio. I haven't set that up with WhatsApp before. Okay. And so
I would imagine it would support it though, right? So.
Yeah, I would imagine so. REST APIs are pretty standard with these various platforms. And so as long as it has a REST API, then FileMaker would be able to connect to it with that using the insert from URL command, which is completely different from open URL, and send a message that way. And that would be almost hands-off. You could do that, automate text messages.
That would be a really cool thing, because you could talk in and out of WhatsApp without ever actually leaving FileMaker, which would be, to me, the ideal thing, right? So. I mean, obviously, if you're making a call, you want to initiate the call, but then WhatsApp has to drive the call. But, you ought to see what the URL protocol is to send that out, Calvin. That would be a good one to see what that would take, because in that way, we totally eliminate the other part of this. So that's interesting. Good.
Right.
Cool. So yeah, so what we're going to do, we are going to edit out the, for those of you wondering about why we have a real person's phone number in here, David gracefully made himself a target, but this video will make it private, and then what happens, it'll get sanitized like what we do for sometimes when I get a little bit excessively opinionated. That's another term we will put in the dictionary, I guess. But yeah, pretty good stuff. Scott says, I think this was shown in a previous video, file demos available Yeah, Scott, we'll get this file updated for you. We'll post it. I really want this to be able to send out directly. The rub is that you can send messages out, right? I mean, it's really easy to transmit, right, out.
Mm-hmm.
Receiving is trickier because you can have multiple people receiving, and the question is, what do you do with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really, what you could do is you could have a FileMaker system that says, oh, the inventory is too low. I mean, whatever you need, little messages, reminders. The inventory is too low. Reorder, widgets for the office, or inventory in the warehouse is too low, or you've got 5 invoices that need your attention, or whatever. So it's kind of like almost an alert messaging thing. I know people use WhatsApp for lots of things. The trick is to make sure you figure it out, because if you're really having a conversation, you really need to be back in WhatsApp. But if you want to, send out alerts and like let people know they need to check this, like, yeah, you're over here. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the sideline of that. So, but Calvin's been pretty busy. So he's been really busy banging away on stuff. Christian has been doing the add-on module stuff. And like I said, yesterday was pretty impressive. Although, to be honest with you, Calvin, the add-on modules will be frustrating for you because it's not ready for prime time. It's very beta-ish. And so when Clarence is talking about stuff, it's like, hey, we're doing this, doing this. It's definitely a beta feature. They don't have any documentation on it. They keep referencing other developers for documentation. Anytime Apple says, if you want to learn about this technology, go see this other company, that's pretty much rest assured that it's not GM and it's not shipping, right? It's kind of, imaginary feature, which is great, but it's a brand new world that we live in. And for Claris to have kind of this semi-public conversation about, hey, here's this widget, and if you want to know more about it, go check out these other companies. And the problem is I've done the bleeding edge stuff before with that. I've done the bleeding edge stuff before, and it's frustrating because what ends up happening is that you end up doing a video or do some stuff, and then it's not either officially supported or not really well supported, right? And so you end up doing this documentation that has to get redone 5 times. So you don't see people like, where's the videos on add-on modules? Said, well, dude, as soon as the product actually works, like end to end without like 12 bugs that are like showstoppers, then we will do training on it, right? But it has to actually be done. So
yeah, sometimes there's too much bleeding on the bleeding edge.
Well, that's exactly what it is, and we played in that area, and we spent a lot of money in the video production, and then to have Claris basically uproot the video production a month or 2 later because they decided to change the way it works. Can we also have a video on Slack integration? If there's anyone else, TK, but you guys do so much. I don't have a Slack integration. Well, that's not true. We do Slack integration internally.
We have done a Slack integration. I don't think we've made that public, but it's something we could definitely.
We use it. We use it. It's really it's kind of funny. I promise I don't want to like show all this to everyone, but let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find something here. Can you quit showing your screen briefly here? Let me see if I can find something here. Where would I find it at? I'm trying to think about who would have this. I don't want Christian. Who did you get a payment recently, Calvin?
I did, yeah. If you hide the person's name,
I don't think I'll be able to hide the person's name. What I can do is try to.
I don't know if they would like their name on there.
Yeah, their name on there. That's the problem with that, right? So let me scroll through here and pretend
I could take a screenshot of it.
Oh yeah, do me. Here it is, right here. It's right here. It's okay. So it's kind of like I'm hiding it here. Where's the person's name? Is it on the top or where is it? So if I move it slowly across the screen, you can see this. That's like I got, okay, so here we go. So everyone up above, this is funny. So there we go. I'm going to zoom way. Oh, nope, I just screwed that up. I just screwed it up.
I guess the name's not on there.
It's not on there? Okay, good. All right, here we go. It's got a project name. Okay, so those of you who want to see this. So what happens? So this is what we do. I had to explain this to Claris. They're like, "Why don't you use Claris Connect?" I said, "I don't want to write you a check for $12,000 a year for stuff I already have working, right?" Seriously, they go, well, "How could it be $12,000 a year?" I said, "Because when we create invoices, we have at any given time about 100 invoices that are out for customers that need to be paid. Most of them will get paid. Some of them are like, hey, if you want to do this project, pay this invoice to get it started, right?" So we create a record in FileMaker. It communicates to PayPal. PayPal then talks to the customer and says, hey, you want to pay this, yes or no? And then it reminds them once in a while. If they pay it with a credit card, then what happens is that sometimes PayPal will push the data to us, but on a lot of what we do, we have to poll, P-O-L-L, poll, not pole dancing, TK55678, but poll, right? The server on the PayPal side to see if it's paid. And so every hour we do this looping routine on a robot machine that checks for that. And you could try to do batching and all this sort of stuff, but when, as it is, I'm writing a check for this stuff for, I probably spent $12,000, $15,000 to get this basics thing working. So every hour it checks like 100, 200 transactions. And so, over the course of the day, I would run way past Claris's, like, oh, you're a developer, here's your friendly bundle for, $19, right, for the year, or $100 for the year, $99 for the year. It would go into the, like, $12,000 level. It was really crazy. So what happens is that the system gets the money, but then Calvin doesn't know. So what it does two things. It sends Calvin an email, one, and two, it sends Calvin a Slack message. So it's a process we call Money Cat. If you guys see memes like, oh, if you give the Money Cats people's picture with their kitties with stacks of money around them, so we call it Money Cat. Money Cat sends him a flash traffic that some customer just sent him $3,000 so he can work on the project. So that's how it works. So, anyway, so that is the Slack message. So it's not like, so the FileMaker determines that there is an alert that goes out and we send it out. So we can do a video on that. It's just never been made public. I am looking at the traffic over here, answering questions. Ron from Who Cares, right? So Ron, that's Ron from New York somewhere. Hopefully everything's going okay there for you. Emmanuel Vanderbeck, does this work with Telegram? I don't even know what Telegram is. Would someone tell me what Telegram? You mean like Telegram from like 1850 when we had like, the Pony Express? You did open URL protocol, right? Is what you did. Did anyone want to see how that works again? You can walk through it. But basically, it's a script step that uses the URL protocol, not the new Java fangled fancy stuff, but the open URL protocol. And it sends the message to WhatsApp, and then it starts that conversation for you. But I think it needs to shoot it in the blind would be ideal. But I don't know if Calvin has time to do that right now.
If we shot it in the blind, it would be we would need to use a REST API and use the insert from URL, just like we're doing with our integrations with Slack. So it's kind of two different conversations. The technology that we're using in those two different instances. With the project where I integrated this, they kind of have two use cases. One where a team member needs to
go and show your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the team member might need to send a quick message to somebody inside or outside their team, and they do a lot of texting just with they're using about half of their team's Apple, so they just are on Apple devices. So they'll just select the Start SMS to bring up their messages app and then send a message out. But they have these other processes in the background for texting that are like what you're saying. They run automatically and just send out text messages without any personal interaction. And so if somebody has, they have to have credentials. And so if their credentials are about to expire, then they will text message 180 days before it expires saying, hey, remember you need to get this certification or this credential renewed. And then 60 days till it expires, they'll get another reminder, and then once it gets down to 30 days, they're getting daily reminders.
Okay,
and those are through Twilio.
Yeah, so why don't you, through Twilio, which is another service, so these guys want to know more about the, I mean, listen, Calvin, when I tell you about stuff, and I already know what these guys are going to ask for because they ask the same questions I do. So guys and gals, again, sorry. So Carol from Oakland, sorry. So the...
We do have a Twilio demo that I believe we've shown before. I wasn't the one who showed it.
Yeah, but I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's working right now or not. So, because TK556 wants to know is if the API supports receiving messages, right? So, I mean, the trick is that when the message comes in, you have to be able to uniquely identify the message, and you have to have a way of putting some sort of like message number in the subject or in the body somewhere, some sort of unique ID. You probably don't want it to be a UUID because that's a lot of wasted characters, but something has to be in there so you know what message it is. But yeah, I mean, that's where the integration comes in here, Calvin. I think the Slack we use a lot of outbound communications to alert people. We don't do a lot of inbound communications with Slack or Twilio, although Todd has done it with a custom customers. The inbound, like, are you doing inbound with Twilio or just outbound?
Just outbound at this point. Yeah. With our and I think this is similar to what Todd's doing with the inbound for Twilio. I think he's giving people it's like a accept or decline a text message, and they'll select one URL to accept and one to decline. It just goes to a web page that runs the script in FileMaker to say whether they accepted or declined whatever notification they've received. In my case, we are sending them to a web page where they can upload their latest information and update their information. So that is set in a FileMaker record. So it's not like it's not a conversation that somebody's having.
Yeah.
They can't text back.
Yeah. So, well, I think the integration would be definitely having this integrated so it sends messages out of. For this tool here, we would need to be able to, because doing the URL like this, I mean, it's kind of useful, but for me, it'd be like I'll skip it, because for integration with RCC, what we do, we need to alert engineers, and I don't need. Remember, this is when we alert engineers, we're using a robot that's checking for stuff that says, oh, there's a payment here. It doesn't pop a dialog for someone to interact with it. It's a headless machine on a server rack. It needs to be totally automatic. So we need basically automatic outbound messaging on Slack, and then also on WhatsApp. That would be good, right? And then inbound reading on, I guess, Twilio. I mean, we should see if with some of that stuff we could recycle, because there's definitely an interest here, people. I mean, everyone's asking about their own little personal, like, I mean, there's a million different chatty apps out there, right? So the answer is it can be done if there's an API for it. And Calvin won't know the answer unless he pops open the manual and sees an API. So John Haggerty is asking, can this be done with Google Chat, right? If there's an API, then yes, right?
Yeah, so I do have Google Voice working, so you can send a message or start a call, and using Google Voice. I'm not sure if that's the same as Google Chat. Google has on and off a bunch of different message services that they support for a little while and then drop, but Google Voice has been more consistent lately.
You could tell Bunny's feeling a lot better because now the resident smart is on the job. So he wants to know if API is good for MSN Live Messenger, right? I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I remember once upon a time it used to install itself. There's also does it integrate with MySpace, right? How about that? We could have a MySpace page and our social media. So chat and Hangouts are two messaging things from Google. Yeah, but we tried Hangouts and they were like, that was a really interesting tech that was really sketchy. Looks like we might have dropped Calvin for a moment, but that was all part of Google's attempt to take on Facebook, because obviously if I'm Google, I can do anything in the world. And something that these companies figure out along the way is that they're not, you can't do everything right well, and unless you have just the right team and you hit the right kind of feature set, you're not going to make it. So Google's what was, I can't remember, Google One, whatever it was called. I just spaced on it, but it was their Facebook competitor they shut down about a year ago. So anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of people. It's interesting that the internet. All these technologies come out. They're all competing for attention with each other. But the rub becomes one where you're only going to have a couple dominant players. Like if you look at like, online money stuff, a lot of people kind of come and go and maybe certain things will survive. But PayPal has become like really the dominant, thing in that. eBay is a dominant component in the bidding and selling business. And you can say, well, I use this other stuff, but really, if you look universally, what's the most used across the board, there are certain companies that kind of own little sections of the market, right? So interesting. And we want Calvin to make it better, right, Calvin?
That's right.
Can you look at the API, the REST, and I know you're busy with other stuff, and so the question is, is there any way for you to build out the REST component to send out messages? Because I can get Hogle to take your file and add the Slack to it, or kind of how to do the Slack part. But what would it take to do right?
If we did it, that's a completely different conversation using a REST API to do that. Mm-hmm. And so we have a Twilio demo of how to set that up.
Why don't you thread that into your demo file then? Why don't we do that? That would be better, right? So because there's always going to be an app that people are going to want to integrate, and we don't have a demo for it, right? So we're going to hit some of this stuff, and then you have to take the kind of concepts and apply them yourself. So the answer is Dave Learning says that would be great. Calvin, can you do it? Please, please, please. I had 3 people here just say that. So cool. Yeah, so that would be really great. So to bring it back on topic. So he might get some help from Hobbs. Yes, Calvin, literally, yes. That used to be his icon there. It was a Calvin and Hobbs. So anyway, but yeah, do you have a Twilio demo that's functional? I know that we've had that before, right?
It's not one that I set up, but the one that we have in Deadbird works. I just used it the other day.
Oh, really? Fantastic. That'll be easy. Then we can call you back. We might have to keep you on backup in case Christian explodes again on us. So you're like the. Actually, you could do is you could bring it tomorrow if you want.
Yeah, that would work.
So appreciate it as always. That's it for now. Thank you.
Collected the quarterback. Great read.
I can shut it off for you here in a second. It lives on a little bit longer in Discord. That's how that works.
Give you a chance, and that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here.
There's Jesse right there. Let me back it up a little bit. Let me see if I can back it up. Oh, there he is. Stop. There he is right there. There's Jesse.
9:25 to go here in the 4th. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10.
And then that's Calvin right there. There's Calvin right there.
Ball slightly behind him, again he makes the grab.